Hey everyone, what's going on? It has been a minute since got some good flying videos in here. So I have a STOL competition coming up in Louisiana, Swamp STOL. So thought I would get a little video in here of some STOL practice and kind of show you guys what I'm working on, and hopefully come up with a victory here in a couple weeks. Let's do it. All right, so I got my cool little plane here. Show you guys kind of what my philosophy is on doing STOL. And that's all it is, it's my philosophy. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I would advise you to get instruction. I'm not an instructor, not even close. I got 300 hours. Done a couple STOL competitions, but I do study it a lot, and this is how I approach doing it. So, okay, my plane for taking off, the best way to do it is, once again, you take off at the slowest speed possible, which is full flaps. So you have to figure out how to get to that speed that you need to take off the fastest way possible. So for me, I give it full power, I dial in turbo, and I get the plane, its tail up, and I get it on plane. And when I do this, you can feel it. You don't want to fight the yoke. So if I'm not far enough up, then I'm pushing, and I don't want to be doing that because I'm fighting it. So when I get up, it's almost like you want the plane balanced here, you know, between the front and back. And then as you're going, you're getting as much speed as possible because once again, your wings are flat. You don't want it too far forward because I feel like if it's too far forward, you're digging into the ground, which is slowing you down. So you want to keep it even plane. And then once I feel like I'm ready to take off, I push the nose forward to get even more distance under there. And at the same time, I pull the flaps to pop it up in the air and hopefully hold off in ground effect without going back down. And the thing that I try to avoid is when I'm doing this, I don't want to pull back so hard that you hit the tail in the ground, because when you hit the tail, if you watch videos of people, a lot of times they hit the tail and it pushes the wheels back down and it'll make them drag longer. So I want the tail up, balanced, as fast as you can, tip the nose up, pull the flaps, get the tail as close as you can, and hopefully pop it up in ground effect and hold it there. So as you're taking off, when you lift the tail up and bring it down, I want to do this as quickly as possible. And the reason I do this, as opposed to just having it like this and going down, imagine a fan, right? So if you have a fan, let's say your plane is a fan, and you go like this, and the air that comes off the fan is not as much as if you go like that. So my philosophy is you get more air trapped under the wing if you're doing that, and you make that fan motion there. Look, the fan. So that's one thing I feel pretty strongly about, is on plane and then up and down real fast to get that air under the wing, to get that motion to pop you up. All right, so we'll go through a takeoff here. Play by play, we'll see how this works out. On plane, dip the nose, pull the flaps, barely touch the wheel. It's a pretty decent takeoff. Happens really fast, so let's go through it here in slow motion. Push the nose forward. We're on plane here, look at the wings. Not pushing too hard on the aileron. Push forward, dip, pull the flaps, barely touch the tail, pop it off. So that light there's at 150 feet right there. So we had to dip back down a little bit. I haven't completely figured that one out yet. So what happens a lot of time is I come, go down, comes off and then the wheel drops down just a little bit because I don't have enough speed. So either I need to go a little further or put a little more back pressure. I'm not exactly sure on that. We'll see another one here. All right, let's show it from the inside here. Get full throttle, holding the brakes, fuel pump on, dial in the turbo. Once I get the turbo dialed in, I'm gonna get it on plane, not pushing too far forward. See, I'm kind of balancing there, push forward, pull flaps, pop up, and then get the turbo out, turn the fuel pump off, and then I pull the throttle back a little bit because I'm practicing. And as I'm practicing, I'm light and I'm trying to conserve fuel, so then I pull the mixture out. So it goes kind of quickly there. We can go through it real quick here at a slower speed so you guys can see. So you got throttle, mixture, turbo. Get it up on plane, try to balance it there. Push forward, then pull back. Try not to hit that wheel and popping it up off the ground. So one thing I want to make sure everyone's aware of, whenever you're practicing or doing anything like this, you want to be really low to the ground or you want to be really high. You don't want to be practicing flying slow at like an intermediate height, because at any point you could stall and you're done. I actually stalled the plane. I almost never stalled the plane before because it just mushes down. And the other day I stalled it and luckily I was only like 10 foot above the ground and the wing dropped and nothing happened. And that's one of the things that's tough with my plane, is because you'll see a lot of planes come in, they can be really low and they can fly like this with the behind the power curve just hanging on the prop and then set it down. My plane does not want to do that. It has really short wings, has a high stall speed. So if I were to come in and try to hang on the prop, I have to come in kind of high, and I don't like doing that. So I'll come in at a more reasonable speed. Like I'm still, hanging on the prop. I'm still like riding the stall, but I'm not at the point where, it's gonna break any second. So, the plane, once I have power in, pulling back, it stalls at 40 knots. So I'll probably come in at about 45. And then as I get closer to the ground, I add more power and try to get it higher. Then I get to that 40 knot range where, any point it could break, but if it did, I'm close enough to the ground and nothing's gonna happen. So make sure if you're doing this, you're really low or really high. You wanna start off really high practicing, and then once you get the hang of that, then you can get down and just kind of gradually ease into it. You don't wanna come in and hang it on the prop the first time. Get close to the stall and then just keep working your way down. When you have power out on my plane, I'm looking at like 58 mile an hour stall speed, which is not very good. So the higher you get the nose, the slower you go. So as you add power, I can get to 40 knots, which is, 46, 47 miles an hour. And that for me is about as slow as it goes. So when I'm coming to land, I'm coming in and I'm probably 45 knots, and I want to aim a little before the line, because as I get closer, I'm adding more and more power to try to get the nose higher. And a perfect landing for me is touching that tail before the line and dropping the wheels on. It's not always like that. So as I'm coming in, I want to actually aim a little past the line, and then once I'm gonna clear it, then I drop the flaps and drop it down. Because if you're coming in and you rely solely on power, you're not gonna be as accurate as you would be if you drop the flaps and bring it in that way. So let's take a look at a landing here. Coming in, trying to get behind the power curve, and you can see I flared a little bit right there and kind of dropped. That was a scratch. I was at 150 feet. which wasn't too bad of a landing. The landings happen really quickly, so let's try to go through this one here in slow motion, see if we can analyze it a little bit. So as you can see here, I'm behind the power curve. I got the nose pretty high. I'm coming down, probably should have given a little more power, floated there, and it screwed me up, and then it just dropped out. Still only scratched by, I don't know, about 3 foot right there, and it looks like with that light right there, I'm about 150 foot stopping, which is pretty decent. Like I said, this plane has a really high stall speed, and it's really tough to get it flying slow. So let's look at this from the inside here, and this was my best landing that I got on camera. It was right about 115 feet. You can see I'm behind the power curve in the stall, hit the tail down first, got it stopped in probably about 115 feet. Go through it in slow motion here. You can see my speed over here a little bit. It's hard to see, but the top one is 40 knots. So 40 knots is about as slow as I can get it going. And you see I'm at about 40 knots right there. So that's about as good as it gets. So hit the ground, drop the flaps, get on the brakes, ride it, and don't nose the thing over. So here's that same landing from the outside. It was about, like I said, 115 feet. You'll see I scratched by about 2 feet on this. Barely missed it, got on the brakes, and yeah, stopped in about 115 feet, which at this time was the best landing I've ever had. I was pretty pumped about it. So we can go through this again one more time, slow motion. Get behind the power curve there, and you want to make sure you're doing this close to the ground. You don't want to get behind the power curve up real high, because the thing can just fall out on you. So you see I scratched by about 3 feet on the brakes, tail's coming up, getting it stopped at about 115 feet. All right, so this one is actually the best landing I've ever had. It was 115 feet, perfect, nailed the line. My camera on my plane actually died, and one of the neighbors was out there recording, so that's what this is from, but we'll go through it quickly one time. You see I'm, riding the stall here, and then I really get the nose up high, get a lot of power, and then dropped it right on the line and stopped. Didn't see the stop. He was trying to do 2 things at once, but yeah, this for me was picture perfect, and I don't know if I can actually get better than that. We'll show it one more time here in slow motion. Maybe we'll show it in slow motion. All right, we'll show it one more time here in slow motion. So you're really working the rudder. You have to work the rudder a lot in these situations. You don't want to use ailerons a ton, but nose high as possible. You can actually hear me putting more power in, and then set it down right in the line. So if I could do that in competition, it's all over, baby. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap that one up here. If you haven't, like and subscribe, and be watching for me on National STOL. See you guys later.